Is the Pac-12 dead? Yeah, probably.
It is.
Yeah, I know you've seen it. I know. I'm sure our viewers here, listeners, have seen it at this point. It's been all over everything. But in the last couple of weeks, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Arizona State, USC, UCLA, Utah, and Colorado have all left for the Big Ten or Big 12. That leaves the Pac-12 down to just 4 schools remaining, which I believe we talked was Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, and Stanford. I know there was some discussion about rivalry games. I think that's an easy solution. You can just probably keep them as non-conference schedule games every year, which I think officials from Washington and Oregon already did confirm they would continue to do every year. So those games will still be alive from here. I guess let's start off with this. Where do you think the Pac-12 goes from here?
The trash. Like, I don't know what are they even supposed to do at this point? You have 4 schools, and none of those schools are really good either. So it's what do you even do? So did this whole thing blow up? When I say the whole thing, the Pac-12, did it blow up because the whole Apple TV deal, and they're be making $20-something million a year instead of 30 to 40 million like every other Power 5 conference? Is that what happened? What even happened?
So what kind of happened with this whole thing is the Pac-12's media deal with Fox and ESPN ended, and then after that, so pretty much because of that, the teams now could exit without having to pay the normal exit fee. For example, we looked at, I think, for the Mountain West, if any team wanted to leave the Mountain West Conference before the 2025-2026 season, they'd have to pay a $32 million exit fee. So that's when we say exit fee. But because there's no media deal right now for the Pac-12, all these teams can leave currently for free. I know a lot of them are holding out to see what the deal would be. And the new commissioner or newer commissioner for the Pac-12, who has a casino entertainment background, apparently has been negotiating exclusively with Apple TV to bring the Pac-12 would only be shown if you have an Apple TV subscription. And even I think more than that, you have to have Apple TV, then you have to get the Pac-12 subscription on that. So I mean, the chances of people doing that just to watch, it's kind of
it'll be a whole damn add-on to watch your favorite team after already having a sub to an extra platform.
Exactly, it's a similar concept to what they did with Major League Soccer. So the deal currently that's being discussed, or is the back end of the negotiating process at this point, is a 5-year deal worth $25 million per school. They also have incentives. So for every person that subscribes to that new Pac-12 streaming product, they get an extra payout. So I think they were saying that Apple TV has 1.5 million subscribers right now. If all of them were to subscribe to the Pac-12 streaming service, it would push the deal up to about 35 million, which is what the Big 12, I believe, Big 10, their contract is. The problem is that it seems to be the big problem with schools right now is it does limit your attention, oh my gosh, what's the word I'm thinking of here? Your marketability, I guess how much attention you kind of are getting.
Engagement. Yeah.
Right. It's like free advertising, because when your school's playing, you have people who are watching and going, oh, well, no, I'd really love to go to Oregon, or they get to run their ads for, oh, by the way, Oregon has a great science program. So it's kind of just a way to promote the school that you don't really get anymore, because it's not just on regular, networks where, you might be flipping through the channels and see and go, oh, well, might as well watch this game. You specifically have to have this package in order to watch it. So the only people that are going to watch it were already Pac-12 fans anyway, and not some random SEC person. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much concludes the background of why this has kind of started happening.
Which makes sense, and thank you for that. So basically, the Pac-12 can either try to recruit schools from other conferences or try to merge with another conference, right? So, the Mountain West is right there around the same region. Do they try to merge with them? Maybe, I don't know. They try to just either it'll be a full-on merge, or they try to just take schools away from the Mountain West. So I don't know which way they should really go. I feel like either way, like, the conference is fucking trash right now. I'm sorry, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
is.
Yeah, it's kind of like, and it's kind of what we were kind of saying is it's going to be difficult to try to pull schools away because each one of these schools, if they wanted to leave, is going to have to pay $32 million to get out of their deal.
32 mil. Yeah.
So unless you're really hitting the full incentive with Apple TV, it's going to take you a few years to even get your money back on that. And then is it really even worth it? Are you really going to get that much more attention than what you're currently getting as it is? Now, you can make an argument that you might because you're going to be playing against Stanford and Cal and, Washington State and Oregon State, which obviously have some bigger name players, but you're still going to only be on this one streaming service versus, every TV in America on Fox or ESPN or CBS or whatever else you could be getting it on.
Yeah, and I remember we saw that each team in the Mountain West might be making $4 million a year. Now, guys, I don't know how credible that source was, but so it looks like if they join the Pac-12, they get a pretty good jump in annual revenue from their TV deal. But to your point, they would have to pay the $32 million fee to even make that jump over.
Right.
So. I don't think it's really worth it. Maybe would the Pac-12 teams right now, the last 4, go independent? Maybe after next year. Is that a credible path?
Yeah, it seems like really the only 3 options would be either the Pac-12 dissolves, which is kind of what you're suggesting by them all going independent. The Pac-12 would just dissolve, and the 4 main teams would either have to join another conference or do it like Notre Dame does and just join a different conference every year. Which I doubt they really would do. They'd probably just get scooped up by somebody else. They could do that. They could try to pull teams. Again, obviously it makes the most sense with the Mountain West because you have San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State, UNLV, Air Force, Utah State, Nevada, Fresno State, Wyoming, New Mexico, and San Jose State. They could do that. We also suggested or were thinking they could possibly even pull FCS schools if they wanted to. Sac State's been really good for a couple of years now. North Dakota State's awesome, so maybe I don't know what those schools' media deals and rights are. I imagine probably nothing too crazy because I don't even think Sac State's a nationally televised game.
Yeah,
so
it can be more than $1 million a year or something like that.
Yeah, so maybe you can just get some of those schools to join in the interim until someone else's media deal ends. Then you can try to recruit more. Or you just merge with the Mountain West Conference, which essentially is the same thing. You're just dissolving the Pac-12. So
yeah. Do we know for a fact if the Big 12 and Big 10 are done expanding? What if they go after the Final 4 teams then?
I'm sure they already are. I'm sure Stanford and Cal and Washington State and Oregon State already have offers. I just don't think Cal and Stanford care too much about their football program to make a change. And I think Washington State. I mean, really, when's the last time? How many Stanford and Cal fans have you seen be super angry about this? Yeah, it's all Oregon State and Washington State fans. So, and Washington, it'd be kind of weird at this point for Washington and Oregon State to bail after they've been so vocal about how wrong this is for Washington and Oregon to bail.
I'm intrigued to see if Pac-12 even will have an option. What if the rest of the 4 teams just leave? And then they just dissolve just because there's no teams left.
Yeah, which I mean, of all the scenarios, that does seem the most likely. Which I mean, geez, that's just such a bad indictment on the commissioner.
That's wild.
You went from negotiating a media deal to losing your conference entirely. So that's just got to be
that dude has to be fired. That dude has to be fired by next week.
Yeah, he won't have a job. There'll be no Pac-12 to be a commissioner of. Yeah, of course he's going to have a job.
Imagine stepping in office and you just lose your entire conference.
Yeah. That is wild to me. But I mean,
I'm only laughing because it's so mind blowing, bro. That's wild.
Yeah. Again, if it were me, I would be on the phone with as many Mountain West schools as I can, trying to negotiate, see who I can get to jump ship, pay the $32 million. Because, I mean, I feel like in the long run of the deal, you're going to make more. And, the deal with Apple TV also has a 3-year opt-out. So if at 3 years they're not hitting the incentives they wanted, the Pac-12 could opt out of that deal and go chase a more traditional network deal. I don't know what the conference would be worth at that point. Probably it would have to have hurt its value a lot. But, I mean, again, I think all these schools would – yeah. I think all these schools
would move on.
Yeah. But I think all these schools would definitely get a bump, playing against Stanford and Oregon State, Washington State, and Cal versus, what they currently get right now. Because, I feel like you never see these guys on TV. And there's been some good players recently that have come out of San Jose State and South Dakota State, or I'm sorry, San Diego State. And even, Jordan Love from Utah State. So there's some talent there. It just, I think that additional media would help. So it could, some of these teams could look at it as an incentive, like, oh, we currently don't get a whole lot of national TV time as it is. This Apple TV deal playing against Stanford is going to be much better than what we currently get right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, when's the last time you watched a Nevada game?
Dude, I can't even tell you. I think going back to the other options I have, I feel like pulling FCS schools into the conference would probably, you got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, I personally would not like the idea. Just because, Pac-12 was, for a time, a powerhouse conference. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you bring in some FCS schools, which I'm not trying to knock an FCS school, but we're not going to, pretend a Sac State's on the same level as, Oregon. You know what I mean? Just how do you even say a Pac-12 conference is a Power 5 conference then if you pull in 8 other FCS schools?
Yeah, but there's a lot of talent that comes out of Northern California. So, you got to think, I think the state championship is always in between. Folsom High School is up here, and Mater Dei, who's down in, I believe, the SoCal area. So, there's a lot of talent in Northern California, with Sac State having an increased pool to use or resources to try to recruit. They might be able to get better talent instead of going out of state to stay in state, and it could make them a more valuable product. We're obviously talking about extreme hypotheticals, and for the Pac-12, this is strictly just to be about survival. So, you could, if you're the Pac-12, this would be the best scenario possibly for them. They're able to pull San Diego State, San Jose State, Utah State, and Fresno State possibly from the Mountain West if they could do that, and then get, like I was saying, Sac State probably, and then maybe North Dakota, just to keep them.
North Dakota State should be pulled up.
Yeah, North Dakota State. And I think there's one more FCS school that I can't think of off the top of my head that's really good. It might be Montana State.
South Dakota State's pretty good too.
Yeah, they're pretty good. But if you can just get it. Yeah, if you can get 4 of the FCS schools, you can get 4 of the Mountain West schools, that gets you at 12. Now you still have your 6-6 conference. It keeps you viable and alive. So when some of these other media deals do end, you can maybe poach a school too. But you're definitely, no matter how you slice it, you're having to start over and build yourself back up. When you lose, 8 schools? There's no way you aren't having to build yourself back up at this point. So,
could you even think of a world where there's not really a West Coast conference? There's the Mountain West, which is the farthest west, conference, there'd be nothing in the West Coast. Because, of course, obviously, those teams are joining a different conference, but there's no West Coast specific conference.
Well, I'm curious to see how it goes for the teams that are leaving and joining the Big Ten. How the UCLA going up to Michigan to play every year is going to be a much different experience for them. I remember some people kind of pointed out that this has happened before with schools. I think was it Vanderbilt? No, it was Missouri that joined the SEC. And ever since then they've been a trash team that no one thinks about anymore. So sometimes it's not bad to sit here and be the big fish in your pond and stay there, because when you go join that bigger pond that's been in the bigger pond for, and the fish have been there for 20 or 30 years, whatever, you're not really going to stack up. And now you've hurt your reputation, lost your reputation. Before, for example, Missouri might have been a great school, and now they're looked at as a joke. So,
yeah, it's true.
But
that's fair.